I had a tough year, so I don't know if you know this, but I lost my stepson in September. No one would do anything on a lacrosse field. He would die on a lacrosse.
My heart hurts as you were talking. Your heart and the blood that's in it is so oceanic.
I can honestly say that it saved my life in a lot of ways. I know he wants me to take care of his sisters and his mom, his family, so
Is I never lost. They're still with me every single day.
I'm good with competing. I'm good with dying on the field. I'm good with, you know what I mean, like letting the game dictate my destiny.
This podcast is called Grateful and Full of Greatness. This podcast episode is sponsored by Whoop, the wearable technology that I wear every single day. We will put the discount code in the show notes, and one other, Thorn Health Tech, which are the products that I take to take my performance to the very next level. They're NSF certified for sport, highest quality, potency, and purity on the supplement market today, also in the show notes. So without further ado, let's dive in. Zed, I was so excited when you and I were talking the other day in person, because you and I both exchanged that for a very long time. We've had mutual respect, and I'm so glad we're finally making this happen.
Yeah, no, me too. It was good to run into you. And again, just I meant that too. Like just competing against you. Like when you play lacrosse, you see players that you never get to compete with, but you're like, man, I would want to play on that guy's team. So you're definitely one of those.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And when we're playing against each other for all those years, it's like I want to have longer conversations. I remember giving you an MGF shirt that you were representing. That meant a lot to me, and I'm excited for this conversation. So let's dive right into it. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about Zed Williams is how humble and quiet you are. Yeah, you have this ability to take over a game. So I was doing some research on a book called Quiet by Susan Cain on the power of introverts and how even the quiet individual can be, especially in a noisy world like lacrosse, it's a superpower for them. So I was just wondering, and I want to start here, what it's like for you to flip that switch, to go from that quiet, humble nature to being able to turn it on. Is that how it is for you, or you feel like it's the same guy?
No, it's definitely a different guy, when you're competing, just like and what I love so much about lacrosse is that, and I had to learn it a long time ago, is like it gives you a green light to bring like you think of it as a kid, right? And I got two daughters and like another one on the way, but like you see kids and you like my daughters are great and they're very nice, but then at home you could see their nastiness come out of them, you know what I mean? And their aggression. And I've always been the same way, but I always had a dad that kind of made sure that kind of kept it bottled in. They always kept you in check. And so, yeah, even in school in public, I was always afraid of doing the wrong thing in his eyes. So I was always kind of unsure. So it was just better not to say anything for most of my childhood. And then, but at the same time, though, playing in every sport and him always there, like you had to bring it, and he taught you that at a very young age. So just nothing's changed. I'm the same person. Like try not to bother anyone. Try to be very respectful of people from all walks of life, but at the same time, when it's time to compete, lacrosse is time to compete.
And you mentioned your two daughters there and another on the way. Congratulations. That's super exciting. And then what about your siblings as well? It's from my understanding you're one of a multiple. Were you all similar personalities, or do you feel like it was much different across the board?
No, we're all very different. We're all different growing up. We're all different now. It's just you could see a little bit of each other in one another, but we all come from the same background, so I feel like a lot of their like even like I feel like my dad and mom prepared us really well for adult life, and they did their job, and I learned a lot from them as a parent now. But no, we're all different, and you could see it in them, and some of us are a little bit more like I would say me, and my older brother, are a little bit more. My older brother and John are a little bit more like takes us a lot to get to that level to get pissed off, or as were the other three kind of. My other brothers just kind of you say one thing wrong to them, they're kind of snapping pretty quickly, and they don't care what happens. So
I was reading an article, Zed. It was beautiful. I hope listeners can go read it about you. It was called the Heart of a Wolf, and it was mentioning a lot of your brother and how you were following his footsteps and learning the sport of lacrosse. And in your first two answers there, you've mentioned the impact of your parents. Inside that article, it talked about how your parents pushed you, and you already mentioned on here that you just felt like they were a great guidance to you. Do you mind unpacking that for me? How you feel your parents did such a great job raising?
Yeah, I mean, I just get reminded. So, playing professionally indoor and outdoor for the past 8, 9 years, I coming back for the first time since I was like 19, 20 years old, playing senior B lacrosse back home. And the league I'm in is Can-Am. So like they got the six local native reservations around the area. And so a lot of the guys I'm playing with or played against a lot of them are same age people that I grew up playing with. And it's just you get reminded pretty quickly, like, man, these guys had talent, and they still do. You know what I mean? And again, I just so many things that go right when you're coming from the same kind of community we all grew up from. But the biggest thing was my parents. My parents kept us disciplined. My parents kept us hardworking. They kept us humble. So a lot of my childhood friends, their parents were in and out of their lives. Their dad was in and out of lives. My dad was a staple there to where if you're acting up and being not taking school seriously, like you're disciplined for it. Like you learn pretty quickly that you always had to do the right thing. Even if like everyone makes mistakes, but even if like when I would make a mistake as a kid, you got corrected pretty quickly. And I just think that's where the difference was. Is like I always had to be disciplined. So um, I just think for a lot of the kids on the res, like they're so good. And then same thing like now, like I see them now, and it's like they're so good. They're just, they're in an environment that they play really well in. And question is can they get out of that environment and play just as well? And I think about a lot of the answer is no, because a lot of people don't want to leave those environments that they're so comfortable in.
Yeah, I mean that's something to click on the comfortability. I remember reading in preparation for this that you have the most high school points uh, and it's not even close. I think it's something like 444 goals, well over 700 points in total. And I know that you were playing high school ball even as a seventh and eighth grader. And I just want to go into that chapter because I feel like that was a very pivotal moment for me as well. When you're in high school, you have to choose different routes. There's all these temptations, all these potential distractions. And it seemed like you really dove into lacrosse. Points would show that, your results would show that, but then you were able to go on to UVA. So could you take us into that chapter of you being a seventh, eighth, and then all throughout high school, how you were able to really stay focused? Did you find yourself being around the right friends, or how were you able to stay so disciplined throughout?
Yeah, so it was there's three local high schools around the reservation that kind of depend on where you live that you kind of went to. So I went to Silver Creek High School, and all my older brothers already went either played sports there or kind of paved the way through school there. So it's a very small school. It's K through 12 is in the same building. And so I always played lacrosse. I wouldn't say lacrosse was my best sport growing up. I would say definitely say football or baseball is better at. I've always been athletic. So like I've always been able to run or like be more athletic than a lot of my childhood friends growing up. But then when the game of lacrosse came, like they were so skilled, like hand-eye coordination, scoring, finishing, all that. And so it took me, you know, a, a little while to catch up. And then so around that seventh, eighth grade pivotal years, I was a big kid. I was athletic enough to play varsity, but my skills were kind of they were coming along. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Like I can handle the ball. I can score. I can shoot. But like some of these guys I grew up with, they were just unbelievable with how they were able to handle the ball and finish. And I found a lot of success in field because of my athleticism. And then it kind of like grew like so you're playing box your whole life from like age 5 to 7th to 8th grade. And like a lot of times a lot of players were better than me because they're like, you play box, so like it's a little in tighter, a little bit more finesse, a little bit more skills, especially as an offensive player. And then once field came, played field for the first time in 7th grade. Um, you know, then your athleticism starts kicking a little bit more. So then I found more success when that happened because I was more athletic than them for the most part. But and then you kind of just find this love where I kind of stopped playing baseball, and then during the whole spring and whole summer was lacrosse season for the first time, and I just kind of dialed in. And like my brothers were playing men's leagues, playing junior A ball and men's at the time. So like we didn't watch lacrosse. So at the time growing up, I didn't know who like the legends of field lacrosse were. I didn't know who Paul and Gary Gay were. I didn't know who the box lacrosse legends were. The only thing I knew was for example, my brothers played senior B ball. So like I knew who Donald Stevens was. And I always give Donald Stevens a shout out because he played for Newtown. He played against my brothers, but he showed me this move in box cross that like he showed me how to bear it. And as a kid, I'm like, I'm taking that move. You know what I mean? And like I still use it to this day. And so like just like guys that like it's the same thing, like the guys are my age now. It's like they're always good their whole lives. Could they play out of that environment? You know, that's a big question. I don't know. Do they have the discipline? Do they have the hard work? I don't know. But you put them in that environment and the senior B league and this Can-Am league, like they do some amazing stuff in there. And so like these were the guys I was watching growing up, and I just thought like that was the highest level, and it wasn't. It wasn't even close. But like, you know what I mean? But like that's kind of where I just kind of find myself addicted to lacrosse. And then so I would say my seventh grade year, going to eighth grade year, I just spent that whole summer playing lacrosse every day. So me and my brothers played in the yard and like all night and like 2-on-2. One of us were a goalie, switch it. Always ended in fights. But so you get competitive with them, and then the next morning, like you got nothing to do. I'm not at summer camp or nothing, so I'm waking up and I'm like, I either got beat up by my brother and I'm pissed off, so then I'm like, I'm gonna beat him in the cross. So like I go out there and shoot all day by myself. Like that's where you kind of like you find your craft as a lacrosse player is like by yourself and like what you work on, what kind of player you want to be, like what kind of moves you want to instill in your craft. And so like that summer, like I was doing the same thing every day, just shooting practice and stuff. And then later at night when everyone would get home, like I would have another 2-on-2 game till 2 in the morning, and same thing again. So just kind of that was kind of my summer where I was like kind of got addicted to it.
You know, Zed, it's amazing because people underestimate the power of using anger in the proper way. I think people that turn the anger towards themselves, that's deep sadness, but people that use it behind them and push them to do the extra hours just the same way you're doing can actually be a really healthy thing. I need to ask you this because it's on my mind in your last two answers. Is you talked about environment and being able to either escape environment or be in the right environment. What do you think is the separating factor? Because I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. I've been around people my middle school years, high school years, and I think that's an inflection point. What do you think separates people that are talented being able to get to that next level versus those who find that comfortability and just sink back?
To be honest, I actually like I don't want to say I'm right or wrong, but I just want to say like to answer your question, I didn't have a decision. So if I joined wrestling and I was like, Dad, I don't like wrestling, he goes, well, you started it, you got to finish it. You know what I mean? Even if it's for a month. And same thing, like whatever it was, like if it was football, like Dad, like I'm overweight, like you go, well, then you lose weight and you're not quitting, you're like you're finishing the season. So like I never had a decision to quit. And but like if my parents was like, oh, it's okay, like you're good, like you don't have to play, then I would quit. You know what I mean? As a kid. And that's really like, I think everyone faces hardship and everyone goes through things. And when your environment starts to change, and mine didn't change until I got to college, but I really struggled that first year with a different environment. But I had two options. It's like you can quit and then you know what I mean, and go back home, or you could give it your best, and at least you know whatever happens, like you gave it everything you had. Um, and I just think it's very easy and it's very comfortable for people to just go back to what they're normal to. And I think that's kind of always been the I don't want to say easy decision because every opportunity is different. So I don't want to say that's the right answer all the time, but like it's just for me, I just feel like based off what we're talking about, when you have so much success in one environment and then you got to go to another one. What you it's like, well, I want to go back to this one because it was easier for me. I felt better. And even though it doesn't feel good, you got to go through those hardships to learn and grow and take your licks, stick with it. And I think that's what people kind of struggle with.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer. A few things come to mind. The first one is when I was in middle school, I was playing so many sports, and my mom was like, "This is enough. We're going from one practice to another practice in the same season." And she wanted me to choose one or the other and really dwindle it down from the seven that I was playing to maybe like four or three. And I remember saying, "Okay, Mom, I decided I don't want to play soccer anymore." And she tells this story all the time. It was like a subtle fist pump, but I didn't see that fist pump. And then she was like, "Okay, but you have to stick it out." And I said, "What do you mean? Like you told me I had to choose one. I'm like kind of done with this one." And it was really a great lesson for me to learn. Even though I chose which one I was going to cut away, I still stuck it out all the way through that season. So it's a very interesting thing when you're talking to children all the way up till teens. There's a stickability and a stick to itiveness that probably is really, really healthy to have. And then the other idea that comes to mind is now you're in UVA, right? And it is the new environment. That must have been a shock for you, right? Because, it's no longer comfortable. Could you go inside that, chapter of your life? Did you find it filled with many lows, many highs, or you were able to adapt pretty
Yeah.
quickly?
It was the reason I went to UVA is because I knew, like, you get recruited in Sarja. I just got this feel for him and Coach Band that, like you take lacrosse out of the picture, they were gonna take care of me as a kid, and I really needed that at the time. So, like, that was the main reason why I went there, and it was so far away, and then it didn't give me a decision. It didn't give me an option to even come home. Like, I couldn't come home if I wanted to. You know what I mean? So I didn't have money for a plane ticket or nothing. So I was there, and I was gonna and it made me stick it out. And then, but like my freshman year was very hard because up until that point, I didn't work out until I got to college, and I was always like more athletic than people. I was always even in football, like I was always more. I wasn't super strong, but I was always wiry and like strong enough. So I got away with it for a long time, and then when I get to college, and these guys are 21, 22 years old, and they're super strong, and I just turned 18 because I graduate. My birthday is May 23rd, so I graduated high school May 23rd at 17, and then turn 18 and go right into college. Yeah, everything was different. You go like even like the schooling, you go from so I graduated with like 73 kids in my high school senior class, and it goes from that to 100 kids in your lecture hall. I just kind of you just got to figure it out. And yeah, I mean, it took a long time for me to get comfortable, and even like coming from the reservations, like there's so much stuff that goes on there, and it's like so many, little like petty drama things all around. That's like you have a hard time trusting people. And it took for me a long time to even trust my roommate at the time, who was the best roommate I ever had. His name was Jeff Cracky, and it's like it took me a good half a year to actually really open up to him. So it was kind of, and then the lacrosse part of it, I actually like the same thing as working out. Like I got away I got away with it for playing how the way which is essentially is how I play now. And had a lot of success in field and box, but um, I just had to learn how to dodge. I had to learn how to do these. I just had to learn the field game in general, learn how to clear, simple clears, all this stuff was like brand new to me. So you just kind of have to figure it out. So lacrosse, like for the first time in your year, or my first time in my life, you didn't have success in lacrosse to kind of find happiness in a long time. So you just kind of had to you find answers, you look for stuff, you look at, the veterans on the team at the time and like what are they doing? Try it. All right, that didn't work for me. I'm gonna try something else. You find something else that, guys you look up to and you're like, oh, that worked for me. So I'm gonna keep that. So it's just a lot of trial and error, and then you just try to slowly become the player you're supposed to be.
Zed, one of the things I noticed right when I met you, I was like, that guy has such a great heart. I would love to have a longer conversation. And then we weren't teammates. And then, like you just mentioned in that last answer, it took Jeff even a very long time for you to open up to him. So I never even knew if we would have a deeper dive, right? Some of my best friends in my life are deep introverted, right? Really okay being on their own, longer to open up to people, but they are really my my deepest relationships that I have in my life. And I think you could tell this about me, Zed. I'm not that way, right? I'm kind of more forthcoming, more open. And one of the things I talk a lot on this podcast about is feeling psychologically safe. And that was in your answer about Starja, like just that no matter what happens in lacrosse, I felt safe enough that this guy was going to take care of me. And I think that puts us in a better position to go on and take risk, right? So you had a tremendous amount of success in high school. Did you have similar success in college from your perspective, or do you feel like you could have even tapped more?
I think I did okay, especially for what was asked of me. But like my first year, I get it. I understood. Like I was, I wasn't ready. Like I was on second line midi. Started. I played pretty much all the games. I think I was on academic warning, so like I think I missed 2 games, but I played every game, and I was a second line midi, and you could see. And I'm still this way to my. I don't know why, but I'm still this way to my like career now playing like. And hopefully, like now that I'm retired from field and just playing full box, hopefully it doesn't happen in boxing anymore. But like the start of every season, whether it's field or box, like it's all like it's like obviously I've been playing my whole life, but then like I gotta gradually build myself up to the player I was. And then so like by the time the season ends, like I'm playing at my best, whether it's at NL or field. But it was the same thing for that year. So like by the time the playoffs came around, I was playing really good ball. And then it ends. And then like, kind of you go home. But then my second year, I was a lot more comfortable and ready to go. I was on the first line midi, and I wasn't like the natural. I wasn't the goal scorer anymore. So I was like, in which I was fine with. Like I took pride on wings and faceoffs. I took pride on getting up and down, clearing the ball, and then same thing my junior year. Took pride in all the little stuff, and then my senior year when Lars came in, he made me attack for the first time in my life, and then that's kind of where I was like, I can just go back to scoring goals. Yeah, I'm in. So it just kind of changes. But yeah, I would definitely say, um, just the whole school was very hard for me. So I put a lot of time and effort into school and just not as much as in lacrosse. And then, once I got done with school and I had so much like free time, I was like, oh man, like I can actually like dial into all these games and know all the players and, know all the moves. And you just kind of like, you just come obsessed with lacrosse again. And it wasn't just school. Like I would say my whole college career was just kind of like call it like school first. Cause at the end of the day, like my main goal was to graduate from college and, especially from there and knowing no one's done it that I knew. And it's just, I wasn't going to be labeled as a quitter. And you know what I mean? So like my main goal was to graduate college.
Zed, I read the book and then the documentary came out. It's called A Path Lit by Lightning about the greatest athlete that ever lived, Jim Thorpe. And I really was moved by it. And now it's coming to my mind over the last, several minutes of you and I talking. Similar background to you, playing every sport under the sun, goes to different schools and he's looking to blossom and looking to blossom. And in your last answer, I really like how you said, like, I don't know what it is, but it kind of like takes a little bit more for me to get going. And then we knew that, when we were playing against you, just don't let Zed get going, right? Because there's a certain aspect of you that once you start get going, you catch fire like you did in the 2020 championship with the Whip Snakes. Here's a deep question for you, Zed. What do you think is in the way? What's in the way from you breaking out quicker than that? Right? Is it a fear-based thing? Is it a more reserved personality thing? What do you think's in the way?
I just think when I play the game of lacrosse, mistakes are going to happen. You know what I mean? And, like you never mean for them to happen, especially at our level. But it's almost like the way I am. Like I talk to my brothers about it, especially my older brother, and he's just like, even for box and field, he wishes I was a little bit more selfish in as a lacrosse player. And like I genuinely, so like if I'm been on the team and I've had success, and Matt Rambo was great at this. And it's like I genuinely want to see like another player have success because like teammates are everything to you. You know what I mean? But then, so like he just like, and it doesn't mean like every game or all the time. He just kind of was like, you need to be a little bit more selfish in your play. And, I don't know, maybe like like, for example, during a game, why does it take a team to go down by 5 before them to be like, get pissed off and start play a lot better? They come all the way back and then they end up losing by 1 or 2. Like, oh, maybe if we started playing that way, well, like, I don't know, maybe it's just human nature. Like, if like I'm fine, but if someone comes and hits you and pisses you off, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of you react a certain way. And it's just kind of like that fight or flight mode where it's like, I'm never gonna flee, but like if you get pushed into that corner, it's like, all right, now it's time to actually fight. Like, but why does that have to happen for that to happen? Or why do you gotta get punched in the face, or why do you gotta go down 5 or 6 goals for that to happen? So I don't know. It's
And
so
I mean, Zed, our strengths and our weaknesses are the same, and it's evident to me that now that at your altitude and your level, you're going back and you're giving to the community. You're so focused on being a great husband and father. You do so much for the sport of lacrosse. So even though it might come at the cost of taking a little bit for you to get going, you really pour your heart into, like you just said, teammates are the most important thing. Could you share why it's so important to you, and the sort of things that you're doing to give back to the game? You know, in that article that I mentioned, um, The Heart of a Wolf, right? It's evident to me how much time you're spending giving back to the game. Can you talk about that?
yeah, I just again, I think this game of lacrosse has taken me to so many places. I can honestly say that it saved my life in a lot of ways. It helped me, like, it helps me provide for my family. Like, I know that's like I'll still be playing other than that. Like, but how seriously would you still be playing? I don't know, but I just know that this game has kind of given me everything. I made a career out of it. Continue to play. It helps me provide for everything. So, um, yeah. So I just know I hope this game keeps growing so that by the time kids you work with now or so, they're more well off. But yeah, I'm just trying to do my part to make sure. Can I do a better job? Of course. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like I know everyone. Like that's why I don't have social media. I don't have, I'm not gonna say a lot in the public eye, but I'm just again like I'm a normal person. I have my good days and bad days. I have 2 daughters, and like same with them. Like I'm trying my best to take care of them, but like you still have days where like you yell too much and like you coming back together. Same thing. Like have my days with my wife, and you try to. I'm not the best husband, but you try to work on it. And same thing like with lacrosse. Like you try to give back as much as you can, but can you give back more? Yeah, I can give back more. Can I? You know what I mean? So you just try to constantly trying to find these different things in your life, whether it's dad, husband, professional lacrosse, helping kids. You just try to find that medium with everything. But sometimes life hits you, and sometimes you just gotta figure it out. But no, I could definitely do a better job. And
Well, it sounds like you and I are birds of a feather. I don't think there's a bigger critic of Zed than Zed. Putting a bow on the childhood and the teenage years. And I just want to ask for a piece of advice that you would give to the younger lacrosse players that listen to this. Whether it's your daughters when they grow up and they're listening to this, or for the kids right now that are looking to go from one environment to the next, one that's more optimal, what piece of advice would you give them?
I always tell like if I get a chance to work with kids a little bit, I don't say too much, but like I would always like they're so set on the end goal. Like for example, if they see Mark Lassini or me or Blaze or whoever else there is, like like PLL or NL, like Jeff T, like you're seeing the end goal, and the parents too. Like you're seeing the end goal, and I get it. Like we have the highlights, we got all this stuff, the social media stuff, and it's all growing the game, and I'm really appreciative of it. But you have to know that your 12-year-old kid is not. That's not that's 15 extra years of lacrosse experience and grind and hard work that certain player got to. And even when you're at that level, like like we make mistakes. Like I drop a ball here and there, you know what I mean? But like I gotta constantly keep working, or otherwise like your game's not gonna be at the highest level it needs to be at. So but like in order to do that, you have to genuinely enjoy it. And this is why another reason why like I didn't mind retiring from field is because like it got to a point in my life where like I didn't generally enjoy. Like, I needed to pit time at the turf. I needed to go dodge. I needed to go shoot on field nets. I needed to go against do one-on-ones against long poles and like which I'd done for years, especially transition from box to field, and I just genuinely didn't enjoy it anymore. So like when I see kids, it's like, don't worry about the end goal, the end process, or getting a scholarship. And it's like, do you genuinely enjoy this? Like, will you go in your backyard and play by yourself and actually enjoy it and use your imagination? You know what I mean? To be creative. And that's actually like what I would tell younger kids.
That is so strong, Zed. And the reason why I say it's so strong is because there's a few things that you and I have talked about. And I was like, oh, I'll bring that up on the podcast. That was one of the things I was not going to bring up because I didn't know if you'd want to talk about it. But now that you did bring it up, I think a lot of people can relate with this part of the conversation where you say, you just realize I just don't enjoy it anymore. I really deeply believe that if you want to be great at something, there's three things that we can train: our body, our craft, and our mind. And if you want to be great at a certain craft, you really have to find joy, enjoying the training for it. How did you know that you didn't enjoy it? Maybe that sounds like a silly question, but was it something viscerally in your body? Was it constant conversations you were having about it? Or something else became more important?
No, I can feel it. Um, I could feel like so. I just coming out the NL season. I had a tough year. So I don't know if you know this, but I lost my stepson in September. So so I so the past so I came into his life when he was 9, and like he was actually like obviously like he wanted to play professional lacrosse since he was like 11, 12 years old. So like since he was like 11, 12 years old and when like fully committed to field lacrosse, like it was always like in my mind, like I have to show him what it actually takes. I have to show him, you know what I mean? Like the hard work, like off the field that it takes. And so then when he got a little older, around like 16, 17, 18, 19, the past 3, 4 years, he'd come back from boarding school, come back from college, and we would go to turf. And he would be like the one, and he would, even since he was like 12 years old, he'd be like, I'm a better shooter than you. He'd make everything competitive. He goes, all right, so then we'd go to the field and we'd just shoot all day. And like, and then it turned into one-on-ones and it turned into me covering him. It turned into him covering me. And like, so like every summer I would actually go to the turf with him and like we would just compete. And that's where I would actually like get my dodging skills from the field background um back again, whether it's from wing dodging, acts or whatever. And so I could feel it. I finished my box season and I had a chance to go play senior B box or PLL, and I could just feel like I knew what it takes. Like like if you want to play, there's no cutting corners in professional lacrosse. So if I want to play in NL for my Rochester Nighthawks team, like I have to give them everything I have. Like I can't be going to the turf shooting field lacrosse nets or field lacrosse balls or dodging. Like it has to be fully committed. And I did that, and then when it came to field, I could just feel that like I wasn't gonna be fully committed because of the small things. And like I've done it for years to where like you said, like you have to enjoy it. So all those years with the whip snakes, I honestly enjoyed it, and I actually honestly enjoyed every single PLL game, watching every single player. I was obsessed with it, and then going to the turf every day and just grinding my bag off, like shooting wise, working out wise, and I actually enjoyed it. And then it got to a point where it's like I could feel like I don't want like Noah's not here anymore. Like he was kind of the one that was kind of pushing me too, and like we both wanted to be great together. And then I was just kind of like, you know what, maybe it's just time for me to kind of just and having a conversation with Tierney. He was great, and we end up talking me into it. They were like, I'll try it, I'll do it. And then I went to training camp. I was out of position, which was fine. I understood. Like CJ Curse is like phenomenal. Like I think CJ Curse is one of the best cross players in overall right now in boxing field. So like when they traded for me too before I turned my Achilles, like the midi was supposed to or attack was supposed to be me, Sowers and McCardle, like which I'm really appreciative of. Lacrosse doesn't stop for anyone. So they draft Kurtz in that time, and like he's the best player, one of the best players in the world. So I'm like I'm good with it. Like I'll try midi. And then when I played midi for training camp in a couple games, I just realized I was like, I'm not a midi. I'm not going to give you much at midi. I didn't make a career making midi, and I couldn't really compete the way I wanted to. So I was like, so I was just kind of with the combination of that and the combination with just knowing I wasn't gonna go put the time in at the turf by myself with Noah again. I was like, I'm not gonna get to the level I want to get to in field. So I'm just kind of, I'm just gonna be fully committed to box and just make sure, for the first time in my professional career, I can get box across everything I have year round.
Zed, thank you so much for sharing all that. My heart hurts as you were talking. Uh, your heart and the blood that's in it is so oceanic, and I think that's why I'm so grateful that yeah, you're not on social media, but you still chose to come on this podcast and open up. So, you know, not only am I taking notes, I'm taking a lot away from this, and Dr. Rob Gilbert, a mentor of mine. He's been teaching sports psychology for 49 years, going on 50 now. And he says to me, one of his greatest fears is waking up one morning and not loving sports psychology. It's like a huge fear of his that he doesn't want to just wake up and like, oh, I don't want to teach anymore. I don't want to coach it anymore. I don't want to learn about it anymore because he and I are calling each other a few times a week just to swap stories. Did you hear how this happened? What do you think about this athlete? Did you see that crumble or did you see this greatness? He has this appetite, and I think there's a difference between hunger and appetite. How could you be full after a steak and mashed potatoes but still have an appetite for dessert? Right? There's a difference, and when you're all in on something, it's hunger and appetite on top of it. Pivoting a little bit because I thought it was fascinating, Zed, that you tried out for the Buffalo Bills. Can you go into that for just one click? Because I thought that was I was like, wow. Here he's all in on the sport of lacrosse, but then it seems like there's some nostalgia coming back because you said baseball and football were your best sports growing up.
Yeah, so I just think I was happy that, Coach Todd McDermott's a phenomenal person and phenomenal guy, and I just got hooked up with him through a friend. This might have been like 2019, 2020. Yeah, like right before COVID. Like his son wanted to try lacrosse, so a good family friend was on the same. His son was on the same baseball team as him, and he was like, "Yeah, I know a guy." So ended up training his kid for a handful of sessions, and just a great family, great person. And so like that's kind of where the connection came, and I was really dialed in lacrosse. And so, anyways, rewind it. Like football was always my best sport growing up. And then even when like lacrosse like kind of took over and it was like, all right, Zed's getting recruited by like some of the top Division 1 lacrosse programs in the country as a 10th grader. Like you seen the light on the wall where like, all right, lacrosse is kind of, as where I'm a small town kid, come from am I the best player around the small town, around the area, sure, at football, but where you're getting small like looks at like D2 schools, smaller D1 schools, sure. But like, when a Virginia calls you for lacrosse, it's like, especially like my parents didn't know, you know what I mean? So like my parents didn't go to school. They didn't know. Like my brother's a lot of trial and error with them as older group, as older kids. So one thing I always learned from them was that their grades were never there. So my grades were always better than theirs because like I seen them not be able to go to or even attempt to go to where they wanted to go to because the grades were so bad. So my grades were good. My grades were fine. And lacrosse, I just feel like lacrosse kind of shows me, you know what I mean? Like as a kid, like you don't know which direction to go. You don't know what's going wrong, but it just seemed right. And it's like, all right, yeah. I mean, I guess it is big time that a Virginia school is, recruiting you and they're in your home and they're in your high school. And it just kind of turns into a big thing, especially coming from such a small school where that doesn't happen. So I still played football, um, and I was good and I really enjoyed it. Um, but then just getting recruited to lacrosse, I kind of just took that journey and I don't regret it at all. And then especially like, so when you look at lacrosse, it's like such a smaller pool, right? And it's like, hopefully it keeps growing, but it's like, it was never like a question of like if I can play. It was always like, yeah, I can play. I can play with whoever. If I'm going to Virginia, I know I can play. If I'm going to professional, if you get like, I forget what draft pick that was out of like field, like late or whatever. But I was like, yeah, I know I could play with these guys. You know what I mean? Like it was never a question. As for football, you always had that question. I was like, oh man, those guys are big and those guys are fast. And I always had that. I always had that question. and if I could play. And so, anyways, you go like you fast forward, like I graduate college, and I start working right away. I had my first daughter right away, and just you're in field lacrosse professionally, then you're in box lacrosse professionally, so you never got that. So when I started training with McDermott, that just it just kind of came back. Like you're on the Bills facility, you see the Bills. I'm like, I actually think I'm like bigger than these guys. You know what I mean? Like I actually think like I don't know. I think maybe I'm just surrounded. Maybe it's just my head, but like we ended up getting beat out of the playoffs, and I just asked him. I said, "Can I get a tryout?" And like he surprised me. He was like, "Yeah, like what position?" I said, "I don't know, man. Like whatever you think." And then he just asked me like my weight and size, and he goes, "Yeah, we'll try a linebacker." I said, "Sounds great." So anyways, it was really nothing. It was just a rookie mini camp. I was there for like less than 2 days. All their drafty rookies, um, pretty much coming in, and then all the coaches kind of get their hands on them for the first time in the playbook and meetings, and see them on the field for the first time, and they just need bodies. So that's what it was really. You know what I mean? So it was nothing more than that, but it was just fun. It was fun to see and fun to do, and I didn't try to make it a big deal because it wasn't a big deal. But I could finally close that chapter on like if I can hang with those guys or not, and like I actually felt like I could have. Like we didn't hit, you know what I mean? But like I actually come across to that. I'm like I think lacrosse players are just as, if not tougher, with the things we'd have to do from box to field and getting after each other. Like obviously we're not going like head to head every play, but I just think as in mode, like coming more from a blue collar standpoint on a daily basis, I don't know, I just feel like there's some athletic tough dudes in lacrosse, and I don't think we get nearly enough credit around the whole world for like what we have to do as athletes.
Yeah, I want to go next into the intangible, like that toughness that you just talked about. But I would just say that when you were saying that the NFL players seem a little bit bigger being around that facility, you know, you're every bit of 250 at times, man. And if I want to get get used to practicing against somebody like you, maybe I should go cross track a tree at a park or something like that. I mean, I remember giving you like a large shirt, and I was like, oh, that's not going to fit him. But I just want to point to something that you said early on in your answer where you said lacrosse chose me. I circled it. I feel the same way. Was playing baseball. It was introduced to my town in northern New Jersey. I picked the stick up and it was just like it gripped me. And I think one of the things that's really cool in the field of psychology is there's a huge difference between intelligence and paying attention and awareness. And I think that it seems to me as I'm talking to you, but I always kind of knew this about you, is you have a deep sensitivity, which means to feel in Latin, and you're very intuitive. Like you are always paying attention. You kind of are listening to your body, you're listening to your mind. And one of the things that I've always appreciated, and I hope appreciated enough, was the medicine game and the nature of it and the spirituality behind lacrosse. And being that it's a sport that's deep within your veins, could you share about what lacrosse means to you? You know, because you said it chose you. I would love you to go further into that. It is the creator's game, and maybe just share how you view it from that perspective.
Yeah, so I've always like for example, like I'm probably going through the hardest year of my life, family wise, and not to get too personal, but me and Noah are so tight through lacrosse, and we had big dreams and goals through lacrosse. And when a 20-year-old passes, just turned 20-year-old passes, and you preach all these things to them in the right way to do the right things, and something like that happens, your faith definitely gets challenged to where it's like, what do you believe in now? And when we say medicine game, and I always believed in it before this, but when you say medicine game, it's like Noah would do anything on the lacrosse field. He would die on the lacrosse field. And I can honestly say that. You know what I mean? And it's like, so like now, like I'm actually finding joy again in the game of lacrosse because after, months of kind of a blur in your life, you're trying to figure it out. to where we're at now. It's like I'm actually like I'm playing senior V box cross with my brother, my younger brother, by the way, which I'm having such a great time. And these players, are they all world? No, the professional, no, but like I'm generally enjoying being in that locker room and competing with them every game. And I know for sure at some point me and Noah were gonna compete together. And I just find it that so like even last year, so this point last summer, I played I was hurt, so I was coaching this team I'm playing for now. Noah was playing junior A, but with the Six Nation Arrows. So we were together all summer, and he would come to our Allegheny games every time, whenever he had a break from practice or a game, and he'd be at our games. And we talked about playing Allegheny together one day. You know what I mean? We talked about playing for the national team, for a Haudenosaunee national team one day. So like on days like I actually want to be like, all right, I'm kind of I'm kind of done. I'm kind of looking for a new route, whether could be family time or maybe I don't have the same drive anymore. Noah kind of lit something on me to be like, and he just reminded me at the right time when I'm ready to like kind of call it. And he's just like, this is who we are. This is what we always have been. And and I just kind of see that as like he's exactly right. Like this is who we both always were and who we always will be. So I'm good with competing. I'm good with dying on the field. I'm good with what I mean, like letting the game dictate my destiny, just like Noah. And I'm good with that. So when we talk about the medicine game, it's like your belief gets challenged, but one thing it's like I know for sure is that me and Noah are gonna get that chance to play together again. And if it's in the sky world, I believe in that. And that's what kind of helps you through the day. That's what kind of helps you heal is that you believe that he's up there, you believe that he's waiting for you to play, and when it's my time, I'm ready to go, and I'll meet him up there. And until then, like I know he wants me to take care of his sisters and his mom, his family. So I'm just trying to do it the best way I can. And lacrosse helps with all that. So again, so when when your house is quiet, you're going something like that, and like I don't wish this on anyone, but your house is quiet, and lacrosse kind of it gives you that week to week push that you need. You know what I mean? So just like when Noah was here, his mom got excited for all his Marquette games, all his high school games, his box cross games, my games. Um, and then when that's taken away, it's like, and then the only one left is like my games. It's kind of like you're kind of, you better make the most of it, and you better make sure that you're letting the game carry you to those games. And again, even when I'm playing, like I think about him. What would he do? He wouldn't quit. Things get hard. He's not gonna go to the middle bench and let someone else do it. So it just really helps me. So win or lose, we won our second round playoff game on last Friday, and it felt really good. You know what I mean? And then we lose by one on Sunday to the same team, and we lost, but I'm having fun and I'm really enjoyed that I'm competing, especially in playoff games because they don't come around a lot. But again, I think that's what the medicine games to me, and I think it can mean different things for other people. But at the end of the day, it's what connected me and Noah for all these years, and I'm just gonna let it keep connecting us.
Like I said, Zed, that's beautiful. And the word compete means to strive together, key word together. So if you're just striving all by yourself, I find personally in my own life, but also when I'm talking to individuals, when they become so focused on themselves, is when they start to underperform. People that are down use language, I, me, and my more often. Right. So when we start to play for other people, we start to go to a whole nother level. I had an individual that I really look up to. I believe it was episode 6 on here, who lost his daughter to childhood cancer. And one of the things I learned from him then, and I still say now, is I never lost. they're still with me every single day, and I'm constantly reminded by that. And one of the things that's very clear in this work is the power of role models, and mentors and role models can really help you get to the next level. So whether we're talking about Jeff, or whether we're talking about Starja, or we're talking about people that are no longer physically present, by thinking about them, we're reminded, and reminded means to put back into our mind that we need to dig a little deeper, that we need to go a little further. And I guess going into this thread one more time, you mentioned Noah, you mentioned your parents. Are there any other role models that we have not talked about but have had a huge influence in your life?
I mean, I can go on and on about, my brothers, sisters. I don't leave anyone out. It's my wife that we got married. We met when I was 19, got married when I was 22. Just like the job she's done with our kids and, being so young, not knowing anything really about the world, but helping you mold yourself. Um, like all that. So, I mean, I can go on. Yeah. So my mom, I don't give my mom enough credit. I know I skip around her a lot. It just had such that old school relationship her whole my whole childhood because my dad, everything started and ended with him. Whatever he said went, and my mom was kind of that behind the scenes caretaker, whether we were sick and stuff, and but couldn't cry in front of your dad, but like you know what I mean, like if you're really sick and there's no excuses with him, but she kind of she had a great heart, so like she was kind of the one there behind the scenes, like telling you it's all right that you lost that game and your dad's giving it to you. So again, I don't give her enough credit, but yeah. So that's kind of all.
I mean, Zed, it seems to me that you've had a great blend of the nurturing care from your mom's side, and you could be better and you know it dad's side. That is fits to a T with how you look at life, but also how you play the game. With only a few questions left here, I want to go to a piece of advice you would give to a young pro. You talk to the young individual and the repeated message that stop with the end goal, be a little bit more present. You have to keep putting in work for years. But what about the individual that's in their first, second, third, or fourth year pro, and they're looking for the fire that you've found deep into 10 plus years as a pro?
Yeah, I just think again, like you got to actually like enjoy it and love it, and whether it's shitty travel or going and picking up balls or whatever it is, like or even dialing into the scouting report, over dialing into like who comes to mind when you ask me that question is the Curse brothers, and it's like Connor's older. Connor's been in the league for a while, but then CJ, like who's like he has the talent, he has the body, like he's super strong, super athletic. I covered him in the road games probably 2, 3 summers ago when he was young, and I'm like, man, let's get the shiftiest dude and strong. Like, all right, he's shifty, but then you get your hand on him, he's super strong still. It's like, man, he's like pro level ready now. This was like 3 years ago, and in box lacrosse, and you see the year he had for Toronto, you see the year, 2 years, the year he's having for Water now. And it's like, but like if you anywhere near the Curse brothers, it's like you could see how much they love lacrosse, and it's not just for those 2 hours on the field. You could see it's 24/7 with them, and so like that's what comes to mind is like those guys are like they're great because of how hard they work, but like how much they are so addicted to lacrosse and how dialed they are into everything, and what great people and teammates they are too. So like, and you're talking about like CJ Curse, and Connor doesn't get enough credit too for how good he is, but like CJ Curse, who's so phenomenal at boxing field, who's athletic and strong and big and great stick skills, but it's like he doesn't get enough credit for like how obsessed he is from day one with like the league itself, with the players itself, and how dialed he is into it. So I would just tell the guys like, man, don't be like there's nothing like to me like there's nothing too corny about anything. Like if you are, you know what I mean? If you're dialed in, you're dialed in. And it's like I just want you on my team if you're that dialed in to the game and that committed week in, week out. Cause like like you gotta be committed through your weekday, preparing for the week game. And these games are so close, whether 1, 2 goals, that's lacrosse, but you're dialed in throughout the whole week. Like you're winning games. especially if it can't be one or two guys. If it's the whole team, like you're winning games, you're winning those 1 goal games or so. So
You know, Zed, you said this line about CJ that he was pro ready years ago. And if you're listening to this, I hope you go and follow Curse Brothers Lacrosse. Each one of those individuals has been an impact in my life. You know, I coached on the Team USA development with Cole. Connor was a teammate of mine. I exchanged texts with all those brothers in some form or another. They're Jersey guys just like me, and I love the passion in which they play the game, the energy, and they've taken a loss in their family and just used it to be a light with other people. So I think that's a great example that you bring up right there. And then on the readiness side, pro ready. That's where confidence comes from. It comes from readiness. And those who are not feeling confident at something just needs to do a lot more volume and increase their readiness, whether that's a scouting report, whether that's hitting the wall, whether that's going out in the yard with a little bit of anger by being beat up by your two older brothers and just putting in more work and more work. If you feel ready, you're going to have confidence on the back end of that. Zed, this podcast is called Grateful and Full of Greatness. And I think you touched upon it in different ways. What makes somebody great, whether it's the enjoyment that they play with, whether it's the passion that they play with. But I want to just see if anything else comes to mind. How do you define greatness? I mean, you've been around the sport for a very long time. You've seen it on the indoor men's side outside of the NLL and PLL. But when you look around and the commonalities and all those great players that you looked up to when you were really young and you still look up to now, what do they have in common?
I just think that the competitiveness, they still have that switch. And again, I always told myself too, like when I don't have it anymore, like I'll kind of retire. I don't know if that's you don't know when your number's called. So like that competitiveness and like the way I want to compete, and like this goes back to like retiring from field. So my last game there was week 2. We played against Cannons, and it's lacrosse. It's nothing personal, but like, you compete in, and I took a high back check. I was playing midi. I took a high back check to the back of the neck from a defender on the Cannons, and I was playing midi, and I kind of like those are the type of checks you're like, all right, I'm gonna get this guy back, or I'm ready to do something, and so I'm on edge, and I told him I was gonna get him back, but then like I never came across him again. I was playing midi, so then I was like, all right, maybe it's my time because I can't compete the way I want to compete right now. As for box, like I could still compete the way I want to compete in box, and still, if you get it, and I get it, it's like it's lacrosse. So like if I'm getting into a guy's head, or if I'm giving him extra lax and I'm touching him up, like I'm doing my job. You know what I mean? And if you're in the offensive end and someone's giving it to you that way or something, it's like you can really like this is the one thing I love about lacrosse, especially like box cross. It's like you still get challenged every game. Your manhood, your and who you are as a person, and it can go that far. And you know what I mean? So like, and I'm never gonna walk away from anything. Like even though I may not start it, I'm never gonna let someone like punk me. And like, and I just think that is at the end of the day competing still. And so I just think when I'm not sure what greatness is. I'm still at a moment in my life where it's like I'm just trying to make sure, if someone thinks I'm great or not, like I'm at a point where like I could care less. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to make sure I'm playing for the right reasons, all the reasons we talked about, and I'm walking away in every game. Like, did I compete? Did I play hard? You know what I mean? Whether I scored a goal or not, am I actually like competing at a high level? So that's when I knew like I couldn't compete the way I wanted in the field. But for box cross, it's still getting into it, guys. It's still that competitiveness. So I'm still enjoying that part of it.
I know you don't care as much, but I've gotten a chance to be, doing lacrosse events with Nardella. I've gotten to in the same way with you, how I've gotten closer with Burnlore and Rambo and all those guys on the Whip Snakes, the way in which they speak about you, it's like you put the sun up every morning and you put the moon up every night. I just want to let you know that those guys think that you're great. I believe that you're great. I want to thank you so much for coming on here. I didn't know which way we would go, but I knew that we would have such a great conversation and you opening your heart about Noah. I had the opportunity to work with Marquette Men's Lacrosse as their mental coach for a few years and get closer and closer with the program. It's obviously rattled the entire program, but to see individuals get behind Mason Woodward changing his number, and people doing things like to the support is there is all I want to say. And I think that the way in which you're living and it's actually reignited your fire is something really special to see. I just want to finish by saying that I have always held you in high regard, and to be able to see you a few weeks ago and have a deeper conversation, and then you'd come on here live and open up like you did. I just really, really, really appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate you, Mark, and I even appreciate you even asked me a couple weeks ago when I seen you, and I just know what kind of person you are. Love who you are. Love what you're about, and just from afar, always appreciated what you've done, and always like I'm always honest and like I would want to play. I would want to play lacrosse with that guy, whether it's box or field. I want to allow him on my team, and those are the type of teammates you love, and just out of respect for you, like when you asked me, I was like, without hesitation, I was like, absolutely. Because I knew what kind of conversation was going to be already. And like you asked me, like, if I had any questions, I'm like, dude, I'm good. Like, those are some of the best conversations when you just kind of like, you don't know, you don't have anything set up and just kind of let it go. And I knew, I already knew what I was going to get into signing up with you and like what kind of person you are. So I was good with whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you so much. And I know you're not on socials, but there's probably individuals that want to get to know you deeper. If we ever receive reach out or you want to tell them where they can find you, I hope that you could be a role model for them. But again, I'm glad the mutual respect is there. I hold you in such high regard, and I can't wait for our next conversation. Who knows? Maybe we suit up with each other pretty soon.
Yeah, that'll be great, man. Maybe you gotta come play some box across Team B. I don't know, but I would actually, well, before I would love to, like, again, man, I don't, I just find it like, I don't like talking about myself. I know this was about, like, episode of me, but again, I just would love, even if it, whether it's episode, another episode, or just down another conversation and just get more into kind of your childhood and your upbringing and learn more about you as well. Yeah, so I'm free anytime. Just let me know.
We'll do that. Thank you so much for your time here, Zed.
All right, Mark. Thank you.